Coming up on Network Africa. At least 94 people killed by Cyclone Chido in Mozambique. The United Nations says nearly 800 civilians killed in Sudan's North Darfur conflict. Plus, the Lagos State government in Nigeria issues stern warnings to event organizers after a series of mishaps across Nigeria. Christmas, and we kick off this week's episode with stories and happenings that made headlines over the weekend. Deadly stampedes killed several people in Nigeria, even as the UN condemns the Sudanese attack on World Food Programme staff. French soldiers begin their withdrawal from Chad as French President Emmanuel Macron visited Ethiopia.
French President Emmanuel Macron arrived in Ethiopia on Saturday and was welcomed by Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, marking the first visit to the region in 5 years. During the visit, PM Ahmed expressed the desire by Ethiopia, a landlocked country, to access the Red Sea and highlighted the need for Macron's support in its endeavor as talks continue between Somalia and Ethiopia, mediated by Turkey. President Macron called Ethiopia's request to access the Red Sea legitimate and encouraged dialogue to bring peace to the region. Somalia and Ethiopia fell out earlier this year after the Ethiopians announced plans to build a port in Somalia's breakaway region of Somaliland, which has struggled to gain international recognition. Somalia is firmly opposed to Somaliland's independence bid. A contingent of 120 French soldiers left Chad, marking the beginning of France's troop withdrawal, one of the last former colonies with which it still maintained a military presence. The troops boarded their plane and departed from N'Djamena Airport following Chad's surprise decision in November to end its defense cooperation pact with Paris. The move comes after France had already pulled its forces out of Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger in recent years. The withdrawal process formally began earlier this month with the departure of 2 French Mirage warplanes. France still has about 1,000 troops stationed in Chad, with a full drawdown expected to take several weeks. At least 13 people have died in 2 incidents in Nigeria on Saturday as crowds, mostly women and children, scrambled for food and provisions being shared. Police authorities said in the state capital, Abuja, at least 10 people died and many more were injured in a scramble to receive gifts of charity being distributed by the Holy Trinity Catholic Church in Maitama district.
In the early hours of today, the 21st of December 2024, another tragedy struck at the Holy Trinity Catholic Church, Maitama in Abuja, in a similar stampede that occurred during the distribution of food items to vulnerable and elderly individuals. This unfortunate incident led to the death of 10 individuals, leaving many others injured.
In Okija, in Anambra State, southeastern Nigeria, a crowd crush occurred after a member of the community offered gifts, including rice, vegetable oil, and money. State police said that 3 people were confirmed dead. In both incidents, the victims were mostly women and children who were trampled as crowds tried to reach the provisions being offered. On Thursday last week, at least 32 people died in a similar incident at an Islamic high school in Ibadan, the capital of Nigeria's southwest, Oyo State.
Well, local authorities in Mozambique say Cyclone Chido has killed 94 people in the country since it made landfall in the East African country last week. The National Institute of Risk and Disaster Management adds that 768 people were injured and more than 622,000 others affected by the natural disaster. Chido hit Mozambique on the 15th of December, a day after wreaking havoc on the French island of Mayotte. French President Emmanuel Macron called for the nationwide remembrance during his visit to the island last week. It's feared that hundreds, possibly thousands of people died when Cyclone Chido made landfall off Africa's southeast coast. Well, tension is mounting in Mozambique, with judges about to rule on its disputed election, with the opposition leader vowing chaos if the ruling party is confirmed as the winner in a standoff that has already claimed at least 130 lives. The southern African country has been rocked by unrest since the Election Commission said that the October 9 vote was won by the candidate of the Frelimo party, which has held power since independence from Portugal in 1975. The Constitutional Council is expected to announce its verdict soon, and that might validate Frelimo's win, lining up Daniel Chapo to take over from President Philippe Nyusi, whose second term ends on January 15. Businesses are shut across the country, streets deserted in the capital, Maputo, despite the fact that it's the height of the festive season. To the war in Sudan, the ongoing siege and hostilities in El Fasher, the capital city of North Darfur State in western Sudan, have left at least 782 civilians dead and more than 1,100 injured since May 2024. The Office of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights made this known as it released the report describing the devastating impact of the 7-month-long siege of El Fasher in Sudan by the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces. According to the report, hostilities intensified significantly in June this year, with parties to the conflicts engaging in heavy fighting in residential areas. Civilians have been caught in the crossfire as homes were used for military purposes and markets also attacked and looted. Many civilians have lost their lives in their houses, markets, near hospitals and on the streets. Thousands of others remain besieged in the city without guarantees of a safe passage out and at a risk of death or injury from attacks by all parties of the conflict. The humanitarian crisis in the country is worsening under the escalating conflict.
Today, we are issuing a report detailing the devastating impact the siege of Al Fasher in North Darfur and ongoing hostilities there are having on the civilian population. At least 782 civilians have been killed and more than 1,143 injured as the parties to the conflict have engaged in heavy exchanges of fire in and around the city over the last 7 months.
Meanwhile, the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk, is calling for the end of the siege of El Fasher, the capital of Sudan's North Darfur state, which has resulted in hundreds of civilian deaths and injuries, and also the widespread destruction of homes and infrastructure. Mr. Turk says the Rapid Support Forces must end this horrible siege, calling on all parties to comply with their obligations and commitments under international law. His statement coincides with the release of the UN report on El Fasher that details the effect of the fighting on civilians.
Continuing siege of El Fasher and the relentless fighting are devastating lives every day on a massive scale. This alarming situation cannot continue. The Rapid Support Forces must end this horrible siege, and I urge all parties to the conflict to stop attacks on civilians and civilian objects. I call on them to comply with their obligations and commitments under international law. Any large-scale attack on Zamzam camp and Al Fasher city will catapult civilian suffering to catastrophic levels, deepening the already dire humanitarian situation, including conditions of famine. All efforts must be taken, including by the international community, to prevent such an attack and to halt the siege.
In neighboring South Sudan, the internally displaced people living in a camp near the capital Juba have recently received vaccination against cholera as the disease spreads to many other parts of the country. South Sudan's first case of the latest cholera outbreak was reported at Renk Transit Center for refugees and returnees fleeing conflict in neighboring Sudan. Many of those affected are people living in the internally displaced persons camps where sanitation is poor, exposing them to higher risk of infection. The worst hit area is the oil-rich Unity State, recording more than 3,000 cases of cholera, with at least 79 people dead.
The vaccine is important, very critical part of the intervention, but at the same time, it should be also complemented with extra wash intervention, surveillance, early detection and treatment. So it's a combination of intervention.
The United Nations Special Representative for West Africa is warning of an aggressive terrorist group using drones and advanced weapons in deadly attacks in the Central Sahel, claiming civilian and security lives. Leonardo Santos Simao told the UN Security Council that insecurity driven by terrorism and violent extremism is West Africa's most urgent concern. Simao painted a stark picture of the worsening humanitarian crisis in countries like Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, and Nigeria, where displacement is surging. He's also urging international partners to respond to the region's underfunded humanitarian appeal, emphasizing that less than 50% funded programs leave millions vulnerable.
Notes the importance of stability. Regional leaders unanimously acknowledge insecurity driven by terrorism and violent extremism as the region's most urgent concern. Indeed, terrorist groups are becoming increasingly aggressive, utilizing sophisticated weaponry, including drones. Moreover, recent attacks in Central Sahel have resulted in significant loss of life among both civilians and security personnel. The worsening humanitarian situation in other countries, such as Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, and Nigeria, has led to increased displacement. I urge partners to contribute to underfunded humanitarian appeal, which remains less than 50% funded, leaving millions vulnerable. It is unacceptable that over 8,200 schools in the region are closed due to insecurity. As noted by the Council in May, the right to education is essential for peace and security, yet this remains unheeded, denying children a future and feeding cycles of insecurity and instability.
Ghana's National Peace Council, Sierra Leone's Independent Commission for Peace and National Cohesion, and Nigeria's National Peace Committee exemplify the region's peace infrastructure, which could be leveraged to enhance community resilience across the region.
We note the importance of the multinational joint task force in fighting terrorist groups in the Lake Chad Basin, and the potential which the full operationalization of the Accra initiative present, particularly in addressing cross-border threats to peace and security and combating terrorist activity, including preventing recruitment and radicalization of young people in the region.
Here in Nigeria, the Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu and Chairman, Nigerians in Diaspora Commission NIDCOM Abike Dabiri Erewa have expressed their delight at the exploit of Nigerians in diaspora who are excelling in various fields of life. The governor was the special guest of honor at the Connected Diaspora Fireside Chat 2024 in collaboration with NIDCOM's Home Strings program in Lagos. He was represented by Deputy Governor Dr. Obafemi Hamzat. Governor Sanwo-Olu implored Nigerians in the diaspora to cherish the country and its culture in order to preserve their identity, encouraging them to contribute their quota to national development. On her part, Honorable Abike Dabiri-Erewa advised Nigerians in the diaspora to continue to contribute to the nation's socio-economic development, as many are already doing, reiterating that Nigeria's challenges could only be addressed through the collaboration of Nigerians both at home and abroad. Well, this is coming on the heels of the diaspora remittances reported by the Central Bank of Nigeria, which increased from over $336 million in September 2024 to $402.38 million in October 2024. Well, the Lagos State government is warning prospective event managers in the state to ensure strict compliance to safety measures during this Yuletide season and beyond. The state government says it is doing everything it can to prevent accidents of any form in the public places, while urging residents to prioritize safety at all times. Was speaking during a joint press conference organized by the State Ministry of Special Duties and Intergovernmental Relations and the Ministry of Information and Strategy. Mr. Gbenga Omotosho said the move becomes necessary following the unfortunate incidents of stampede in some parts of the country, as well as a reported incident of a stage collapse at a beach event in Victoria Island, Lagos. Also speaking is the Commissioner for Special Duties and Intergovernmental Relations, Mr. Gbenga Oyeride. He urges Lagos residents to be their brother's keeper by monitoring happenings in their environment while enjoining them to always call the toll-free numbers 767 and 112 in case of emergency. Now, speaking on safety measures, the Director General of Lagos State Safety Commission, Mr. Lanre Mojola, says event planners must follow safety rules, and residents or anyone who wish to do charity for people of over 250 must engage the agency through its website.
We got reports that on Seoul Beach that there was a stage collapse during a show. Fortunately, nobody died in that incident. And this has made us to say that we should not allow the matter to just lie low like that, and we should use it as a kind of signal that people should watch out, that we do not want such incidents anymore. And for us in Lagos State, we have adequate preparation for very big events. But we need the cooperation of Lagosians to ensure that nobody in this season, where everybody, the whole world is celebrating, loses his or her life. That is why we are here today, to warn Lagosians that should you decide to gather any crowd at all, to distribute things, to have a show, no matter the kind of show at all, you should be able to consult with the Safety Commission. And we are all gathered there so that Lagosians will know that we are serious about this. It's not about keeping your whatever you see that is going to be harmful to your neighbor. You need to cry it out. And then in the event where there is an emergency, we have a toll number that Lagosians have been used to. And I still want to re-emphasize that number, which is 767 and 112. This should be kept on our head, and to at all time, whenever there is an issue of emergency, I think this toll number can be called upon. Toll free, it's toll free, and that you will see response, and all emergency responders will react accordingly.
And we've had a very robust system of ensuring that we identify events, large events in the state through our platform, www.lsgsafetyreg.com. And over time, we've registered nothing less than 150,000 events across the states. This has helped considerably in reducing to the barest injuries, incidents that could lead to fatalities in the state. For any event in the state that is above 250 people, there is a need for you to register through that platform that I just mentioned. We will continue to monitor, we'll continue to ensure that people can go out in very, very safe manners in Lagos State.
Well, still on the issue of safety at large-scale events, the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Professor Nentawe Yilwatda, has sympathized with the families of the victims of a recent stampede in Oyo State, Anambra State and Abuja. He explained that stampedes are caused when charitable organizations disregard the basic safety protocols of such events. The minister listed out some of the protocols and plans to domesticate them.
First, I want to sympathize with the families and the entire country for the life of the loved one that we lost, especially the family of the loved ones and their relatives. As a government, we're so depressed by what happened. I think we need to look at the most important, the primary cost of this issue, where events are organized without without following the basic protocol of such event. When you organize the event and you say there's a registration point, people register. You select the people that are going to benefit from it. So you have beneficiaries list. You can either put distribution point if there are too many. So you arrange for police presence. You arrange, you do a vulnerability check. You do the risk assessment of where you're going to have this event. This will prevent the crisis and stampede that we're having in most locations that we're having right now. I think the most important thing here is for us to adopt, for state governments, domesticate these protocols. These protocols are at the national level. We need to get these protocols also domesticated at the state level, even at local government level, so they will make these laws. I think these are major steps that we need to take as government and as people, as individuals, as churches, as organizations that have good intention, but having poorly managed events.
Away from Nigeria, the Kenyan government says gender-based violence is the biggest security issue in the country, with alarming statistics announced. In just 4 months, 100 women have been killed, mostly by men they knew, including partners. Prime Cabinet Secretary Musaila Mudavadi calls this a growing problem, and noting that many cases are still under investigation in the court. Mr. Mudavadi adds that the police have created a special unit to address femicides in the country, which are killings based on gender. Since September 2023, there have been 7,107 reports of sexual and gender-based violence in Kenya. President William Ruto has also urged police to look into these cases, stating that 4 out of 5 murdered women were victims of intimate partner violence, meaning they are unsafe in their own homes. Well, Kenya's cabinet has also approved a presidential group to suggest ways to combat gender-based violence. In Zimbabwe, the National Air Ambulance Service of the country is partnering with HeliDrive Zimbabwe to help emergency patients get to the hospital in good time, and their specific target are pregnant women. The National Air Ambulance Service has been using helicopters to transfer patients, particularly maternity cases, from rural areas to central hospitals for critical care. Since operations began in August, 154 flights have been conducted, with about 30% of cases involving maternity emergencies. Well, the helicopters are equipped with onboard incubators and life support machines. These efforts are focused on providing respiratory support for preterm neonates and facilitating emergency medical transfers to central hospitals.
We had managed to do 154 flights, carrying 100 from different hospitals to the main central hospitals. I can say the majority of the patients are maternity cases, ranging from around 30% of our cases are maternity cases that will be coming for the services in the central hospitals. Recently, we had a case of a mother with twin pregnancy. She was coming from Chegutu and she was not able to deliver in the hospital. So we managed to carry her. She was in a critical condition for her life and the baby's life. But we were so proud that we were able to get that patient and bring the patient to Harare Hospital, and they delivered safely, and now they're back home. That was, I could say.
Hundreds of visitors have gathered at Johannesburg Zoo on Sunday to embrace the festive spirit at the much-anticipated Lights Festival, where dazzling decorations light up the park to celebrate the holiday season. The event showcased vibrant displays, including festive decorations in the shape of Christmas symbols and animals like the deer, horses, and lions. Thousands of twinkling lights illuminated the zoo, creating a magical atmosphere. A Santa Claus, surrounded by children, also added to the joy, and he was handing out gifts. The Lights Festival from November 28 to January 5, 2025 is offering more than just the illuminating displays. Visitors can also enjoy dance performances, food and craft markets, and a host of other festive activities, making it an unforgettable experience for all. And that's it on the program today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Layo Olarinde.